Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to blockchaingamer.biz's weekly blockchain gaming news roundup. Today is Friday, the 8th of March. Do check out our website at blockchaingamer.biz and follow us on Twitter at BCGBiz and our other social channels. My name is Jenny Jordan, and with me is co-host John Jordan. Hi, John. How's your week been?
All-time high.
It is, isn't it? Up.
No, I don't care.
Everyone.
Yes, everyone's excited, aren't they? Everyone's popping open.
Excited. Everyone's got airdrops. Everyone's launching tokens. It seems there's a lot of small things going on, but sort of a bigger sort of sentiment change.
The weird thing is the meme coins, isn't it? That's been the sort of big whether you see it as positive or negative. Lots of meme coins, and some of the newer meme coins are the Solana ones, and sort of it's interesting. Nothing to do with games really, but you've sort of had obviously Bitcoin's done its big thing, and then it all got crashed down again because someone sold a whole bunch of coins in an old wallet. So it all crashed down again, like 10%, 20% in some cases, and then it cycles back, and Ethereum didn't crash so much, and it's gone up, and now the cycle's gone to Solana, and all the sort of clever people on Twitter all sort of have these clever ideas why they think it's sort of cycling through, which is all, I imagine, a load of rubbish, but it's fun.
Okay. And talking of meme coins, actually, you've been speaking to Yat Siu from Animoca Brands this week, and he had one or two things to say about meme coins, actually, in a more, some people just brush it off as sort of a joke, because that's to a large extent how it's been marketed, but he sees it as a more a philosophical, intellectual point of view. Can you just talk us through really quickly kind of his point there and how it sort of changed a little bit your perception of it?
Yeah, without not really blowing my own trumpet, but had a podcast this week with Yat. Yat's the chairman at Animoca Brands. Absolutely brilliant. I've had him on the podcast 3 times. This is the best time yet, and nothing to do with my questions. Just Yat is he's just a very well thought through guy at a deep level, and also he's a details guy as well, so he covers everything. Actually, don't agree with him on everything, but he was very good. He's very good, and I agree with him on this. That sort of often the things that we look at in crypto as a bug are the feature. So the fact that meme coins exist and are worth billions of dollars, even to people like me in crypto for a long time, sort of they feel a bit. I mean, maybe distasteful is the wrong word, but they seem a bit frivolent. Like, why would you buy Doge when it's absolutely has no utility? And I'm very much about these games are the best because they've got these reasons I come up with. But he's just like, doesn't matter. People are just like, they love it. They're a community. They're spending their money on it. They're all doing their funny meme things or having doges or dog with hat is the new one, and they're all doing these funny things on Twitter with dogs with hats and changing the hats and changing the dogs, and with is this big thing now. Instead of saying with, it's a new crypto sort of thing. So there's a when moon with WIF instead of WITH. So why I still don't own any meme coins, it did sort of he was very enthusiastic about that, and just says it's people experimenting, and one of the I think joys of crypto is that it's a global mechanism for people to collaborate around shared values and create financial value from that. So really I should stop being so stuck up about Dogecoin being a top 10 crypto, and just maybe I'm not going to buy any Dogecoin, probably not, but maybe I should just sort of to a degree still celebrate these sort of slightly mad DGen people all creating something that's worth whatever it is, billions of dollars.
Well, it's similar to sort of just to sort of take it down to a more kind of real life, I suppose, personal level. Our children get sort of caught up in wanting the latest sort of thing from whatever reasonably hyped brand there might be, and we just go, no, how can you want that? It's so overpriced. It's so But these brands create value, and the children get excited about it, even though it's exactly the same thing in that bottle as it is in a
it's Prime.
Bottle or whatever it might be, and it's exactly sort of that thing, but because we can't physically touch it, it's all digital. We feel as though it's not quite as real, or and
in some ways you would argue Dogecoin is purer than Prime, because Prime is just it's just very, very overpriced, not very good drink, but some of the kids, they don't have a taste obviously to care, but they really love Prime, and they collect different Prime bottles and all that. Sort of, why should we, if they want to spend their money buying overpriced drinks, why should we stamp down on their fun? Because they clearly have a lot of attachment to. I mean, they do seem to think. One of them seems to think that KSI does literally work in the factory, sort of pouring prime into the bottles. And I said, I don't think he does do that. And they were like, oh, really? And there we go.
Right.
Moving on.
The headlines, other headlines. But I would just say, like, go out and listen to that interview. It's brilliant. And like you say, it's so full of enthusiasm and so many good and refreshing perspectives. It's somehow, sort of missing perspectives on Web3 and the fundamentals of really the market. So Aperion has launched a token this week, APRS or APRS, and with that we'll see the first token launch or token sale on the Ronin network. So yes, Aperion migrated to Ronin in December last year. We have looked at the most popular blockchain games this week, which is also a Ronin game. It's Pixels still, and they announced a new sort of record high of 1.1 million total users, lifetime users. That's right. But also they've also exceeded 350,000 monthly active daily. Sorry, that's right. So that's quite a thing. It keeps going up for them too. Planet Mojo has revealed a new game, Go Mojo, which is still exclusively sort of to their community and NFT holders, but I assume it's going to go public at some point. It's like an endless runner game. They've also minted out their first ETH NFT collection, War Banner, I think it was called.
War Banner.
War Banner. And they've also launched their unveiled their forthcoming season. I'm not exactly sure when it goes live.
It's live now, I think.
It's live now. Okay. So hence why I'm wearing this lovely Mojo LA cap, which is still one of my favorites. In other news, Aurori has shut down their Aurori Tactics game to focus all of their efforts for now on Seekers of Tokane, although saying that they are sort of planning on reviving some Aurori Tactics or redeveloping. But there was basically so much cheating they couldn't quite manage it with sort of their measures for now, and it also prevented the growth of Seekers of Tokane due to having to sort of ban Aurori Tactics in certain countries and regions, and those players then couldn't play Seekers of Tokane. So it's all complicated, but I do think, that this might be controversial, and obviously some players will be upset, but equally maybe more studios to learn here that spreading out and focusing on loads of different titles, we mentioned that before, it could be better actually to gather all the efforts into the thing that you see working well, and actually not be too scared of shutting down what doesn't work, sort of thing. And Heroes of Mavia, returning sort of game we've had in the headlines throughout most of 2024. They've announced they've hit 3 million downloads now. Previously this week, they said they had 2.6 million monthly active users, which is an awful lot for the sort of a recently launched mobile strategy game. But we'll talk more about that when we talk about the most popular games, I think. So over to you, John. Which one do you want to dive into first? Do you want to say more about Aperion? Or should
let's go with Aperion. Whatever we say, Aperion. So as you pointed out, this will be the first token launch on Ronin. So obviously there's loads of tokens now on Ronin. Well, not loads, but there's pixel tokens on there, and the banana token from CyberKong also went live this week. But this is the first time a token has been launched. So they're doing a typical launchpad like Binance do. They're working with a they're working with a third party to handle that, and it works very much like Binance, where people have to stake. So you have to stake wrapped Ronin token into the launchpad, whatever, and that will give you an allocation of the Aperion token. There's also, I think there's 4 million tokens are being launched that way, and then 15 million tokens are being allocated to Aperion NFT holders. So I assume they're still having to pay for them. Not quite sure, because maybe they're not actually, because the launchpad you're not paying for them, you're just staking tokens. Anyway, in both cases, interestingly, you have to go through KYC, so you have to put in your passport or your ID details, so it's not just randoms. They have to know exactly who you are. Check you're not American, I suppose. So that might be a bit off-putting for some people. That's not very sort of crypto, but that's sort of where we are with sort of laws around this sort of stuff. They are selling it for $0.11 dollars or USDC per token. I think the first tokens were sold for 5 cents. So these are obviously twice as expensive as the early investors got, but whatever it is, what it is. So that's sort of interesting from a technical point of view that they're doing all that. Personally, I'm not going to be getting into that one. I think Aperion for me is, I've said so many times before, is an overly complicated game. It's not to say it wouldn't work, but I think there's just a lot of competition now for games. There's a lot of good games out there with Web3 stuff in there. I think Aperion, if it works well, it'll be great, because it's this hybridization of God games at a high level and dungeon crawling, turn-based sort of tactics games at the other. When you get a community where those things work really well, it's great because no one else done it. It's quite hard to do, I think. So I think it will do okay because it's on Ronin, and there's still there's not that many games actually on Ronin. So I think as a sort of a first game, one of the first games to go live, with sort of all singing, all dancing, NFTs and tokens and all that sort of stuff, they'll do okay because there's just lots of liquidity on Ronin at the moment. People are very bullish on it. But when I sort of consider blockchain games and which ones I sort of am interested in at least playing or getting involved with, I'm much more about sort of, in 2 years' time, is this going to still be, interesting? And at the moment, I think for something like Aperion, it's really hot at the moment. But developers sort of okay. They know what they're doing, but the genre stuff seems a little bit odd to me. But we'll see. Not investment advice, clearly.
Good. Right. Looking at most popular blockchain games throughout February, we should also mention. So we look at that radar data, and from there we just gather who's had the most players and
so as it has been through 2024 or late 2023, Pixels is the number one game. As you said, it's now up to about 350,000 daily active unique wallets. So that's partly because obviously the Pixel token is live, and they're obviously having these events with people like Soccerverse, and they've announced some guild stuff coming further down the line. So I would expect their daily actives to continue to climb. Obviously,
to launch their Pixel token recently.
Yeah, the Pixel token's been interesting in the sense that it hasn't really gone up. And obviously they sort of pegged it. They pegged the value to berry. So it's interesting that people haven't gone in and pumped the Pixel token, which, given they're the biggest game, you thought people would do. It's interesting that degens actually don't like, is my view, degens actually don't like tokens attached to games that people actually are playing, because they can't sort of ape in around it, and they can't sort of drive sentiment, and it's sort of very clear, even though this is the number one blockchain game and will probably reach 500,000 players, I would think, some point this year. Maybe it'll be the next game to hit 1 million further down the line. But people don't like to. I think degens don't like to buy tokens on the marketplace and think they're going to 10x, because rightly they think they're not. Degens tend to like to get into things like pre-sales, get them cheap, get everyone really excited about it, and then sell out. I mean, that's sort of maybe I'm being overly mean on them, but generally, I like, actually, for Pixels, I think probably as an investment, not investment advice, the Pixels token is probably quite a good one, because it's a good game and they're going to be doing it for the next 10 years, and who knows what's going to happen in 10 years' time, rather than these sort of things that are hot now and then in 6 months' time everyone's forgotten about them. Did it even exist? We've seen that. It's interesting. Sort of Grapes, sort of one project that's a bit like that. Portal launched a couple of weeks ago and tokens gone down. No one seems to quite know what's going on there. stuff that's really hot.
You sort of pointed out regarding one of the investments. We haven't had it on the website, but one of the projects, there was basically hundreds of investors, and they were all kind of degens. So there's just like a group of degens that's come together, or almost formed like a guild, and they invest like very small amounts.
Mafia, I would call them.
But they
Mafia.
Mafia.
No, but this is interesting. No, but this is. I mean, and I don't mean it's sort of. I mean, I don't know how organised they are, but we've always had this. We've always had groups of people, sort of, whales in the background, and it's sort of how Bored Apes got big and how CryptoPunks got big. There were Discord groups with these, people like Siege Phrase and Pranksy, and they all had their own individual way of doing things, but also they did come together with certain things. They were like, an influence group, so people would come to them and say, this is back in the day in 2022, 21. We've got this NFT sale. Do you guys want to come in? And they would buy essentially hundreds of those NFTs to get them off the ground. And then, I don't personally like that sort of stuff. That doesn't seem very decentralized to me. That seems a little bit like insider trading. I mean, it's not illegal insider trading, but yeah, now we've got this group again. It's interesting to see them. I didn't know at all who they were until a few months ago, but people like Grails and Dingaling and Siege Phrase has come back, and Yellow Panther, and just these names, Alex Becker, they're all influencers. I don't know them from Adam, I just sort of follow them on Twitter like everyone else, but it's interesting that they all loopify, they all sort of come together, and they've even invested a lot in Pixelmon. It was one recently, and you just see the names cropping up over and over again, and clearly they've made a lot of money in this cycle already, and they're just sort of cycling through these sort of things, and whether they hang on to these things for a long time or not, I don't know. But this is what happens in sort of these sort of markets where you get a lot of velocity up and down. You're starting with Bitcoin all-time highs. You start to get people who've never bought crypto before coming into the space, which is sort of dangerous. Personally, I think the bull market will sort of go on for a while. I think interest rates are still really high, so they've probably got to come down at some point for macro reasons. And if interest rates come down, that means debt's cheaper, so things tend to get a bit crazy. But gold's at an all-time high, Bitcoin's at an all-time high, stocks in some cases at an all-time high. People saying Nvidia is going to be the most valuable company in the world in the next 6 months. It's very weird from that point of view. How you wouldn't expect these things to be happening with interest rates at 5%, whatever they are. So anyway, beware. So is my advice.
So in terms of most popular, again,
yes.
returning to that,
yes.
But Nine Chronicles are doing well, and
so Nine Chronicles, Idle RPG was on PC. Now it's on PC and mobile, various different versions of it. So it's up to about 50,000. So it's still, I would still say they are probably. I would be surprised if they can scale that game very heavily, because it's using its own blockchain. You have to sort of know what you're doing around setting it up, to be honest. You can't just download it from mobile app stores. So some people will just get in that way, but then the blockchain stuff's not really accessible. I think there's also an issue there. I mean, I play it a lot. I play it every day. I'm quite committed to it. Had them on the podcast a couple of issues ago, so I quite like it. But for Western audiences, it's a little bit grindy and a little bit pay to win. So it's quite good in the early phases, but I'm like level 250 or something. So probably it's in the top 1,000, I think, of players in this game at the moment. But you have to sort of spend money. So the stuff I've got, I could have got through just grinding, but I would be playing it a lot more, and it would take me 6 months longer. So I don't quite know if it's not as accessible a game, I think, as something like Pixels, which is very community based and social and guilds and all that, farming, all that sort of stuff. So it's a different sort of game. We'll see how far they get on with that. I just cycle back to something else you mentioned, Heroes of Mavia. So again, that's an interesting one that is through the app stores. Again, as we mentioned before, there's no blockchain in it still, so we're a little bit like, when's the blockchain coming? Again, for me, I play it, but it's a sort of struggle in terms of when you have to update your HQ. You'd really need loads of the in-game gold, which you can only get through fighting other people, and it becomes quite difficult actually to do that. I sort of called it a bit of a design flaw. And I'm thinking that when the blockchain stuff comes in, that will help you get over those sort of problems. But 3 million downloads for a mobile game is not a lot, clearly. 3 million downloads for a blockchain game would be a lot, but it's not a blockchain game at the moment. So it's sort of interesting to see how that one plays out. And I'm also a little bit confused that they announced, as you said, 2.6 million monthly active users, which would, to me, would be they'd have a lot more than 3 million downloads, because basically that seems to suggest that they're counting everyone who's downloaded the game as an MAU. And we just know, nothing to do with blockchain, that those sort of, any game probably loses 50% of its audience within the first couple of days. So, my gut feeling would be, in terms of daily active users of that game, I would say they're well under 1 million at the moment. So we can't really get a good idea of how that game's going to play out until they start releasing blockchain features and in the marketplace and all that sort of stuff. And almost the problem for them is they will have burned out a whole bunch of their initial players who won't come back to that game, and they'll have to all that great launch PR they got is sort of basically will have gone, and they'll sort of be restarting from scratch without being a new game. And the people who maybe they'll re-engage some of those people who played it in the beginning and then stopped playing. But free-to-play mobile games are a very, very hard thing to do. And I think this is the other thing we'll get into in blockchain gaming sector as a whole hasn't really had games going live and then having to do live services on it. And if you talk to anyone in the mobile game space, I mean, I talk to these people quite a lot. It is really brutal. It is brutal out there. You basically pick up, your game is like a sieve. Literally, you pick up your game, you launch it, and you watch all your audience drains away. Unless and you're frantically trying to stick all fingers in those holes to stop people draining away. I mean, it's really, really hard, and I don't think we should pretend otherwise. At the moment, crypto's sort of hot, so if you're doing airdrops and stuff, maybe you can stop that a little bit. But I would really like to like Heroes of Mavia more than I think I sort of will. I think the white paper is interesting. I think they've got some really interesting ideas, but I worry with a lot of blockchain games is they just won't be able to implement. They won't get to the stage where they can implement those to be sustainable, because it's just really hard to keep users.
Okay, so on a more positive note, then let's move into those fully on-chain games that are fantastic in utilizing blockchain and don't have to worry about app store regulations and monopolistic tendencies and anti-competitiveness and this and that. Primodium is a game you just mentioned. They have had some major updates recently. It's a fully on-chain kind of tech tree strategy resource management game, which you can play straight away in your browser. It sort of has you have to have a MetaMask login, and then it just saves all of your gameplay, your progress in the browser. Another one is Soccerverse, which I would like to talk a little bit about, because I know you know a lot about Soccerverse. You know the developer well, and it's just launched. It's open beta, so it's free to play if you get on the Discord and get free packs.
Yes.
But please talk us through a little bit about this game, and then we're going to close.
Yeah, good. Okay, I didn't know you can do that. So I know Soccerverse very well. I've been advising them for really 6 years or whatever now. So and it is a fully on-chain soccer football management game. They're currently, I can't remember exactly what beta it is. It's beta 4 or beta 5. This is the last beta testing before the game goes live in the summer. And as you say, for this current beta, it is public, so anyone can play it, but you have to connect your Discord, and then you get a free pack. And the pack gives you sort of clubs. So it's a sort of a global game. I can't quite remember. It's about over 3,000 clubs. So all the clubs, all the big leagues, all that sort of stuff, all the players.
These made up clubs? These made up or?
No. So they're basically there's sort of packs you get with the names in. But it's not a fantasy game. So it's sort of slightly weird in the sense that it has the players, it has player stats, so real life player stats, and they are updated, but not on a weekly basis. So sort of I'm slightly making figures up now, but Messi is still a highly rated player in the game, but he's not at the peak that he was when he was at his peak. So he's, I don't know, maybe he's 95 now, or 93 or something. So there is this idea that the one of the ways in which you can play the game, or one of the aspects of the game, is you could, if you really know about football, you can go and find 18-year-olds in obscure leagues and start buying sort of assets in them, and then obviously over the years they will become more valuable. You can obviously, one of the key things is you can be a manager of a club, so that's why you would want to get sort of connect with Discord, so you can go in and you can become a manager of a club. And then you get the football management stuff. So you obviously set on a weekly, they play 2 games a week standard on the leagues, and you would set you choose your team out of what team you've got on a weekly basis. You would set the sort of tactics, the formation, and who's taking the free kicks and penalties, and do you want them to play aggressively, or the typical things we get in a soccer management game. But obviously, one of the things about this is it's sort of on the blockchain, and there's an in-game token. So the better your team does, every week you get these tokens coming to the club, and the manager gets paid as a percentage of those tokens. And people who are influencers in that club, who own part of that club, also get payment from that. You can also sort of own parts of a player, and that player has a wage. So the club, out of its income, pays the players in the tokens, and the people who own the player get a pro rata. So if I own 10% of Jude Bellingham, I get 10% of his wages. There's also Jude Bellingham can also have an agent, so someone could be sort of and he would get paid a percentage of the wages as well. But he could also go, as agents do in real life, they can also go, Jude Bellingham wants to leave wherever he left, I can't remember, to go to Real Madrid, and they can sort of do deals with the managers and all that sort of stuff. So it's a sort of fully on-chain, fully economic simulation of football, really. So it's fascinating. It's based on a sort of an old Web 2 game that's been brought to the blockchain. But it's really really interesting. Lots of ways to play it. Some people could just own players and bits of clubs and just sort of accumulate these tokens. But obviously the sort of key thing is the manager of the club who's number one in the league, gets the sort of kudos and but it's pretty deep actually, because when you start,
it sounds like it's very complex.
I mean, it starts to become a proper sort of simulation, and you could have pretty much everything you would have in the ownership of football clubs in real life will happen in this in Soccerverse.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, John. And thank you very much for tuning in, listening to us waffling on. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.